Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hi, I'm Rose Minahan, and I'm host of this astrological conversation panel called Talk Cosmos. And today we are focusing on the new moon that happens to be tomorrow on April 26th. That's the Scorpio new moon. No, full moon, because we're in the time of Taurus. We've just shifted into that. And the full moon always reflects from the polar opposite side the new moon that's coming up in this case. And that is always a time of a double accentuated releasing and purging, because Scorpio says, hey, baby, I need new growth. So what are you going to let go of? And it's a process. We also will be talking about the Taurus full moon on the 11th of May, which will be quite a welcoming energy regardless. There's really a restructuring process that we're enveloped in during this time right now. So, and I want to mention that we are missing Sarah Stromley, our member of Moonbeam Team. She had a COVID reaction, so we're hoping she feels much better much sooner. All right, well, now it's time for the Moonbeam panel. Moonbeam Team.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam Team.
I'm Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, certified astrologer, sacred healing counselor, tarotist, and numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camino Island, Washington.
I'm Catherine Metcalf, professional astrologer, intuitive, and tarot card reader. I am very blessed to live my passion by offering individual consultations and teaching classes at a local college and online. I love to talk and write about the planetary dances and how we fit into it. I have been lucky enough to be featured on NBC, Cosmopolitan Magazine, and Huffington Post. My goal is to educate, enlighten, and empower you.
And as Albert Einstein said,
energy is never destroyed. Energy only changes.
Yes, and the energy is changing. And I think we immediately realized in our pre-conversation that the Scorpio moon and the Taurus full moon, new moon, get that straight, Sue, is fixed. Yes, fixed energy. Spring has started. We're in the middle of it. Yet it is for this month, for necessary purposes, a fixed energy. So there's a bit of resistance as well as strength that we're finding. And for those people that are interested in the time and the degree, the Scorpio full moon, the Scorpio full moon only happens once a year. Each of these full moons only happen once a year. We will be relating back later to the new moon after we talk about the full moon at the end of this half hour. But the full moon is like one time, and it's a new kaleidoscope of energy at that moment that really energizes and activates it. So back to the details. It is tomorrow on the 26th at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which would have been 8:32 on the West Coast. And figure it out in your own time zone. Here in Hawaii, it's a lot earlier. It's 3 hours earlier. And the degree is 7 degrees and 6 minutes. It's just barely into 7 minutes. We'll be using the Sabian 8-minute interpretation, which is always this metaphysical download that has significance. There's always significance with everything. Okay, back to my team. Yes, it is a stellium. It is in the 5th house. So, shall I bring up the chart? I know that not everybody can see it, but that would be a good idea. Okay, let's do that. So go ahead and speak, somebody, about what you think about. We all know.
Well, the moon is in the 11th house and the sun is in the 4th house going into the 5th house, at least in the chart that I ran. It'll be interesting to see the chart that you put up. So, and yes, there is a stellium with the sun in Taurus, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury have joined the Taurus party, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fixed planets, butting heads. So it kind of feels to me, the energy feels a little bit to me like, you know, when you're frustrated and you just feel like you just need to beat your head against the wall. That's how this one feels to me. But we have a little T-square, which is, you know, in and of itself sometimes challenging as well. But it's going to Saturn, which points to the fact that this full moon in Scorpio opposing Taurus with that T-square to Saturn feels like we're changing structures.
Big time.
Yeah, it feels like that's a big foundation for us.
It's challenging, just the word Saturn, and for people that are lay people to kind of flesh out some of these terms, which is very necessary. You know, this is an emotional full moon. Scorpio's a fixed water sign, and it's like the iceberg on top of the water floating. There's a whole heap more down below to unearth, and yet it is necessary to get out of that comfort zone that Taurus so willingly wants to go to. It's like pleasure, you know, is ruled by Venus. And so here we have Saturn that is the structure and rules and authority and some fear, but it's in that new sign of Aquarius. It's saying elevate, you know, let's reprogram. And it's tricky when we're talking about long-term emotional attachments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a combination of some flowing aspects. We have a grand trine in air, but then we have the square thing. So it's like we have a flowing aspect of helpful energy of like wanting to get us somewhere, but there's some adjustments and attention to detail that needs to happen.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'll simplify this chart. I you know, I keep doing so many charts that let's see, I'm going to do this one and see if did that show up? Oh, that's really simple. Did you see that one?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's too simple. Well, anyway, let's stop the sharing and I'll mess around with that later. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I think because the chart also is in the shape of a bucket. Okay. So with the moon at the top,
with a handle.
I feel like, at the handle. So I feel like it's really important. It's going to be a very important emotional release day. So with that moon in Scorpio, like you said before, you know, it's intense emotions. So I do think that we need to examine our beliefs and feel the emotions that we have, but we need to release. If there's anything negative that we've been holding on to, it's definitely a time to release that.
It is. And I think the willingness and meditation is so important, I think, because however one can find their path inward, and meditation, or I guess working out in the garden if you have one, or planting something, it can go for a walk, a hike. I mean, we are in a Taurus time where going out to nature is so replenishing, but that can recenter how we, those feelings of.
And even if you're just out in your garden for 10 minutes and pull 4 weeds, that's very helpful, because every day of 10 minutes adds up at the end of the week. So,
Yeah.
And it is amazing that the sun is exactly next to Uranus. That's in that tension with, which wants to break out of things, right? It wants to get to a new pattern, and it's in tension as all year with that regulator, Saturn of the traditional past.
Well, I'm sorry, Liz.
No,
do you want to go
please.
ahead? Okay,
go ahead.
So the Sabian symbol for this full moon is 8 degrees Scorpio. So you always, in Sabian symbols, you go up 1 degree. And it says the silvery moon shining across a beautiful gem of a lake, which is a beautiful romantic image for most of us, right? But it can evoke emotional responses because there can be hidden depths and dark, scary places. And the reflections of the moon on the lake is a mirror. So in the Sabian symbol book, the Linda Hill book, it's time to ask what beliefs in our life need reflection. Are we open to hearing other people's point of view? And are we open to seeing the whole picture? And then the one quote that I chose to go with it to kind of understand the foundation of this was Anais Nin. And she wrote, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are."
Oh, the eternal Aries, the reflection. What comes to mind is that it would depend, yes, I mean, and I'm throwing this out for all of us to discuss, is that what houses, if we know our own chart. You can go to any astrologer, any of us, you can go to astro.com, but if you already know what chart, like here for the United States, it's in the 11th for the moon and the 5th. So looking at it from that standpoint, we can talk, because I'm realizing that the 5th house is about the child, and it could be the inner child. I was part of a class that someone brought that up, and I thought, oh my goodness, not in relationship to the new moon, but for their own journey as that process. And here we are all really working hard to let go of things. And I know for myself, I have had a focus more on those patterns starting way back. So again, time is a illusionary factor. If we get trapped into thinking it's rather immediate, this year, last year, something relative, can be very, very older. And especially as we are all experiencing this common denominator of COVID that's separating us from what could have been our routines into a new pattern of existence. So I think that dredges up old things, because maybe, it is amazing with habits, and the moon is about habits, yes, that we fall into these patterns that cope. We think we're managing something, or by healing it, but we're managing it. It's like, oh, okay, we're kind of propping it. It's like shimming, like a jerry rigging or shimming something. In construction, those words come to mind.
Well, and to remember that the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, so you could feel very passionate about something for a day or two, and then it's like 3 days later, go, what was I thinking?
Yeah, what I get so worked up about.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Good point. Because like right now, as we're speaking, it's in Libra. And tomorrow, because it's such an early Scorpio moon, it shifts later into the Scorpio. So Libra is like, yeah, we're balancing this and that. Scorpio says, I'm invested. I paid into this. I trusted. How could you pull the rug out from me? Like what? And that could be on any level of anything. Yeah. Intense. So
Can we
When I've
talk
been
about the last new moon that was in Scorpio?
Well, yes. If that's the case, let me just absolutely. I did want to add that. Yeah, we sure can. Go ahead and give the date of that. I have the date because I want to change some of my settings on that new moon thing. I was not quite right, but that was okay. I can give the dates too. It was
November 15th, 2020.
Yes, and it was 23 degrees Scorpio on the third decan, as they say, at 18 minutes. And it was early in the morning at 7 minutes after midnight a.m. on the East Coast. So here on the West Coast, it was actually on the 22nd. No, it was on the 14th, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's always a little translation there. Yeah, go ahead, because I need to update some of these.
Well, it's always a cycle. So, you know, a new moon is the beginning, and then it ends with the full moon, right? So the new moon in Scorpio was November 15th, 2020. And if we can go back to that time frame, we look at what things were beginning in the early stages. So, and that was, you know, November 3rd in the United States, we all voted for president. So, and we went from Trump to Biden. And so, and it was, you know, even though it was a clear win for Biden, Trump was very contentious about it and always said he would not, you know, concede to Biden. But it was fascinating for me when I was researching this to see that on that day, on November 15th, the new moon in Scorpio, Trump actually posted on Twitter that he conceded that Biden had won. He posted that Biden had won. And so now with the full moon in Scorpio, we're actually 100 days into Joe Biden's term, you know? So
that's a huge benchmark. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we switched presidents from one to the other. So that was a big one. And then
Catherine, and thank you. I really, both Liz and I are really appreciative of this research. And I know there's several more points. I want to bring out to our audience that there are these larger, which Catherine mentioned, but just what we're doing, because I shift sort of the direction of the Moonbeam team. And at this point, we're recognizing that there are these larger frameworks, cycles involving the moon. That's our closest ally, you could say, moving the tides. It's really affecting us. And so here we are using this full moon again in its full moon capacity to measure half a year ago. So looking at this chart, for those that can see it, or for those that do pull it up, what I'm bringing out, and again, we're putting all our charts at the Capitol building, could have been New York, but hey, this is the United States that we're coming from, of America, and that next year we're having this Pluto return. So all these incremental changes are so dramatically affecting all of our consciousness. So it makes sense. And what I'm bringing up is in this chart, that new moon was in the 4th house. And that's our foundation of our thinking. And this particular new moon, that new moon, and the full moon, which unlike the new moon is not in the same degree, but the same sign. And therefore it's in the 3rd house of our communication, our neighbors, and opposing our philosophies in the 9th house. Okay. So I hope I set that stage. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just interesting that with the new moon, you know, it did land in the 4th house, and the 4th house is where we live, right? And you did it for the chart of the Capitol building. So
Yep,
that is the United States home, right?
Yep.
So that made a lot of sense to me. And then at the top, you know, it's right on the cusp, the 9th and the 10th house of Uranus. So that does point to a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Liz, jump in, but go ahead. We will listen because you have a couple more points.
Well, and the fourth house is home and foundation and safety and security. So, you know, and I know that some of the other points that Catherine's going to make about the COVID and the vaccines and different things, it's like really plays into that.
Yes, the emphasis that we were looking to protect. Okay,
Yes.
we are ears.
So, and then we've got COVID. So, you know, at the in November of last year, it was new, you know, to us, or that we were aware of, basically. And there were 11 million people had it in the United States, and there were basically no vaccines. So I don't know if they had started researching the vaccines. They may have done that at that point. But then,
yeah, they've been testing them. It just hadn't, but there wasn't a lot coming out of support for it. We have to be clear about that. They're really,
yes,
in the last presidential, especially once the election happened, there was very little forward motion. So that's
correct. Yeah. So, and now with the full moon, you know, obviously way more people have it because it's several months later, but a big percentage of people, I think, did you say, Sue, it was like 27%?
Yeah, 27.5%. But the good news is,
have had the vaccine.
Well, for those people that want it, it's accessible. They're reaching out to much younger people of all ages and really opening it up. And so now it's another, you know, just like this is a measure point. You know, we have another 9 months in this whole. Well, anyway, there's larger cycles. So anyway, yes.
Yeah. So the other big thing. Well, and going along with the government, the Pentagon in November of 2015, or excuse me, 2020, November 15th of 2020, announced plans to withdraw 2,000 troops from Afghanistan by mid-January. So that maybe started then, and now it's completing with, you know, President Biden talking about a total withdrawal. So after this, you know, full moon. So, and he's stating by September 11th of 2021. So, which is a pivotal day regarding that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose looking at the chart here, that does indicate perhaps Mars in the 11th house there of, I would say, somewhat of like just looking at the difference. I mean, Mars was in actually Mars, just left out of bounds too, didn't it? But it from the 9th house of our attitude and philosophy to the 11th house of our community, and 9th house would be also places across the water, far distances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the last big thing that I saw that everybody, you know, is talking about is George Floyd, his murder, and Derek Chauvin. Is that how you say his name? Chauvin?
Yeah, something like that.
So on November 15th, you know, that horrible incident obviously had happened, but they had just set the trial to happen in Hennepin County in Minneapolis, where it took place. And they had requested to move it, but they were denied that. So that was under the new moon. And then the full moon, we just got, you know, notice a few days ago that he was found guilty of all of the charges. So.
And that seems very significant just looking at this chart, that the moon, this full moon, is very closely conjunct Mercury in Scorpio at that time in the 3rd house of our environment. How are we communicating? How are we thinking about our neighborhoods? And that's a huge topic that's all across the news, thankfully, because it really involves all levels of our policing system. So if we look at Pluto at that time, there was a stellium. That means more than one planet. There happened to be 3 major planets along with Pallas in Capricorn in this 6th house, meaning our daily routine. The police, we are, you could say, a servant of daily routine. And so here we are really confronting, wrestling, negotiating, thinking, trying to purge new ideas about how do we use this potentially constructive force for the true welfare of our citizens. And along with that is going to be some major renovations, I trust.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I just want to make a comment that we have a monthly lunar cycle, and we've been talking about the yearly or annual lunar cycle. And then we also have a gestational lunar cycle that's 3 years long. So I just wanted, if people were confused, that to make that clear.
Yes, it always, thank you, Liz. It's very important. And in fact, that makes me think, I actually did a little now chat, which is also on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. You know, this is aired in many ways. We can go to 1150 KKNW where we air every Sunday, thankfully at 1 o'clock, which I'm so grateful for our audience. And then you can catch the retakes through podcast, either Podcast One, Apple, Google, whatever. It's just about on every podcast carrier. But I also have established my own Top Cosmos YouTube channel. And this Moonbeam team and I have been getting together on either for full moons or new moons. Liz has been very active, and Catherine has also been active. So, and I myself do various commentaries. And I just did one on this larger gestation. And gestation refers right back to the 9-month period. And it's a 3-year span. And it's most intriguing. So thank you, Liz, for bringing that up. And we'll try to incorporate.
Each phase of the gestational cycle is 9 months. So from new moon to first quarter to full to third quarter. And then it starts again when the 3 years complete.
Yes. And this actually is a beautiful segue because we're showing purpose. And the new moon is all in Taurus. And that has a lot to do about purpose. I'm with the Taurus Moonbeam team. We have Catherine Metcalf from Illinois and Liz Elizabeth Mouchette from Camino Island and Marysville, Washington. And I'm here on the Big Island in Hawaii. So we'll be right back on the 25th of April about the next message. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Taurus. By leaving a cycle based upon initiation, the energy of Taurus integrates spirit into a solid form of matter that is tangible and physical. It's an earth sign, concerned with self-sufficiency and the values to maintain the strength of a life form throughout its survival.
Whether we know it or not, each of us are on a quest to discover our true self. And the road we travel to accomplish this goal is unique for each of us. This is Marie O'Neill's hero's journey of walking her path and overcoming hardship and heartache in her book, And the Lotus Opened. As a memoir of enduring an absent mother and a harsh pseudo-family, and surviving ongoing abuse and trauma, Marie learns to trust in the divine and in her inner self, and release herself from the emotional chains that bound her. She discovers her personal power and who she is, and she learns what being free really means. Now available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com in either hardcover, paperback, or ebook, you can order Marie O'Neill's book, And the Lotus Opened, and let Marie be your guide as she leads you on your path to authentic freedom, using metaphysics, astrology, Buddhism, and healing practices.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Hello, this is Catherine Zumstein of EarthSkyAstrology.com, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars.
Make us part of your daily routine. Alternative Talk 1150.
Oh, hi again. Sue Rose Minahan with Catherine Metcalf of Illinois and Liz Machette of Marysville and Camino Island, Washington. And today's the 25th of April. We're the Moonbeam Team, minus Sarah Stromley, who's recovering from her shot of COVID. And we're talking about the Scorpio Full Moon that's happening tomorrow on the 26th, and soon the New Moon in Taurus on the 11th of May. And that will be at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Time. So we just had a wonderful little blurb announcement about Marie O'Neill's book. She was on just recently with Katie Cadge and wrote a book about her own transformation. It's so pertinent. In fact, I just ordered my book. I'm really delighted. It's amazing. We both lost a parakeet when we were small, lit it out the window. Boom, there it flew. And isn't that really, in a sense, what we need to do when you think about the analogy? I just hit me right now. I know it was really sad. And I think that's the other thing. It's okay to mourn as we let go. We need to get through. We need to know what our feelings are and go through them. The Scorpio is emotion. So we're talking about this now as if we've done it. It's going to happen tomorrow. So when a person's heard this, they may write down what they want to release, burn it. You know, there's always a ceremonial act that just brings it into form, as we well know, and we don't always bring up, but it's always evident. So, yeah, I think the one last point I want to mention was a reminder that the moon, we can't think of as unconscious. I don't know how that resonates. And the light of the sun brings consciousness the best we can. And that's how we work with it. So if you have comments about that, great. Otherwise, we can go into this process, or any other thoughts you had about the full moon that is part of this whole cycle, because it's like an axis, Taurus and Scorpio, but moving into the new moon energy.
I wanted to talk briefly about the lunar gestation cycle, and that began in October of 2019 on the 27th or the 28th. And it was at 4 degrees of Scorpio. And in that chart, the new moon was in the 4th house. And so, you know, it's talking about safety and security and foundation. And Mars was also in the 4th house, square to Saturn. And at that time, Mars was in Libra and Saturn was in Capricorn. And now we have Saturn square Uranus. So I think the shift from the planets being square to each other, it's like Mars, it's like wants to just do anything. Let's just solve a problem. But now and it was with Saturn. So Saturn wanted structure to the problem solving, but now we have Uranus. And so we might come up with some more innovative ideas of how to solve the problems, or something might happen that you just have to do something to solve it, because it's like you have to solve it right this minute. You don't have time to think about it. You just have to do something. But to me, it just talks about change. So that's basically what I wanted to say.
I think we all need to look at our individual charts too, like you had mentioned earlier, to see what area of your life has really been going through this, this change. So, yeah.
Now,
Important
Liz,
stuff.
because I'm working on 5 different stratas, is this right at the moment? We're looking at the October 27, 2019 new moon in Scorpio.
Yes.
And we're also looking at the Taurus new moon. Is that, no, we're looking at the full moon.
Full moon.
Oh yeah, back then. Okay, got it. Sorry for all those folks wondering, what is Sue doing? Well, it's a lot adjusting life. It's like, holy crumbiny.
Well, it's just like all the cycles within the cycles within the cycles. It's like there's all this happening, and it's fun to reflect back.
Absolutely. And I said, thank you for bringing it up, because I did just do this chat on it and I had it understood. But at the moment I'm multitasking and that doesn't work so well, right? My verbalizing is like one thing at a time. Yes. And here it is. And I think that's very appropriate what you were saying, if people can see it too, because here you have it, the moons and within few degrees of each other and same sign, a year and a half ago, October 27th, 2019. This is pre-COVID, pre-everything, when we thought we knew we could plan on stuff. And
but that center wheel is incorrect because you have it for Pacific time, and so that's not even correct. Sorry.
Oh, rats. Okay. Well, the point is, okay, if we swap it, it will be. So my point is that somehow showing that the energy was looking at, okay, well, we'll let it go. Oh boy, the point of change, yes, is so appropriate. That's right, that we're in a deep sense of change. Let's look at this new moon, okay? Can you see it? Did it translate to your screens? Or do I need to go back? No. Okay, all right. Let's share it and get this. This is a new technique, folks. And when it works great. But when it doesn't, okay. So here, can you see it? For those that can, Taurus New Moon?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for the folks out there, this has Virgo rising of the fix-it attitude, because it looks at what we can or can't fix. And it is most of the energies from the East Coast is all in the Western Hemisphere, meaning it's out there for all of us. It's like, shake your laundry. Let it dry in the breeze, right? Share it. It's not hidden.
And that new moon takes place in the 9th house. So of how Biden announced that all the troops are coming home. So has an international flavor to it.
Yes. And stability, doesn't it? Stability. Taurus is in stability. It's in the last 21 degrees. It's in that 3rd decan. It's the survival, the resources, how to use the right resources, we might say, and everything.
And with Mercury ruling the chart, the ascendant's Virgo, and the Mercury's right there at the midheaven, really close to the midheaven. So there's, I would say, a lot of communication happening for everybody.
It is.
And it's in Gemini.
Yeah. So more, it's really going to express 100%, and we're going to be listening to all kinds of voices. And, there is a signature of adjustment, as I see it, with our cultural bias, because the South Node in Sag is our culture, it's our belief systems. And as we have this energy between with it that is the new Uranus of our values, working with our direction of Mars, with for our security that we brought up in Cancer, and with that that point of Mercury that we're talking about, it's trying to juggle. How are we wouldn't you say, how are we changing our belief systems, our cultural bias?
Yeah, I think it's really clear in the chart. And I think it's a continuation too of that full moon in Scorpio too, with everything that happened with, the George Floyd murder. I can see it playing out into this too, because of the sun and the moon, new changes and new philosophies. So
yeah. And it's
and
right
it's trining Jupiter, or excuse me, trining Pluto. So yeah.
So we're getting support to transform. We're saying, yes, dig it down, use. Yes.
Yeah, not so much fixed energy this time on the Taurus New Moon.
Well, maybe it's analyzing. That good point, because there's many ways. Thank you for that. Many ways. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, well, quickly fix, because it's opposite Pisces, which is the whole, like, why do anything? Just let it be. And the Virgo wants to fix, but in order to fix, they have to figure out what's going on. You know, they got to like get down and figure out the details and discern what's important. So maybe it's more that we're just analyzing a lot, you know, part of the process. Or criticizing the negative. It can be, didn't like.
That's very Virgo.
Yeah, it can. Yes. We all have our shadows. It's a process of getting through. Yeah. But it's a lot of healing, I think. There is healing in this energy. Actually, when I speak of that, I see Chiron is square Mars. Chiron, the healer who couldn't heal himself until he could turn his. What we have interpreted that to be is like, yes, we all have our own individual wounds that we've experienced, but at some point, 50 years and a half, when the full cycle or before, it doesn't have to be right to then, but the process involves us being able to use that wound, the experiences from it, to benefit others and do it in service. So here we have this with our, and it's ruled by Mars, right? Because it's in Aries, Chiron. And so, but how, and that seems to be a big part of the conversation, is how are, I mean, a lot of these signatures or energies are all at 10, 11, 12, 13 degrees. They're all right connected. They're juggling in some way this whole process of trying to release what needs to be released of what's wounded and benefit and really protect and serve others together. And what a process.
Well, and taking action, Mars, to work on your healing on a personal level and a global level and international level. And with Neptune in the 7th house in Pisces, it's having some ideas, and some might work and some might not. So it's like being open to new possibilities.
Yeah, but that 7th house in Pisces too, or the Neptune in the 7th house is, you know, that can be healing energy as well. So yes. Yeah, so that's a nice thing. So yeah, I think we just have to take action to make it happen. Yeah, with that Mars energy.
And isn't that what life wants? It wants some kind of a beginning, a step. I mean, without any kind of action, if we just think of astrology in itself, starting from the whole of Pisces into Aries that separates, that's where the hero's journey, whatever it is, on any large or tiny scale, gets momentum.
And then with this new moon, last night I heard on the news that, like, do people really need to go to college and pay for college education to make a decent living, and how some companies want to just train their employees to do what they want?
Oh, wow. Well, there's pros and cons to that, depending, you know.
Absolutely.
And I want to discuss that, because that is really a lot to do about this North Node, that the collective, that's our collective journey that we're going forward for our soul growth, because it's, opposite the South Node in Sag, which is a lot to do about our cultural beliefs, our belief systems, and all of that. And with Mercury right there, there's a lot of thinking, and it has everything to do about learning and higher learning, doesn't it? So that is huge. Before, though, we go there, I remember, Liz, you mentioned that in the state of Washington, Governor Inslee mentioned that in 2030, and other companies I've seen too with Google that sends out news that's very similar, but that no new vehicles that are gas oriented will be able to be registered. Is that correct?
Well, that's what they're working towards. And other states have done 2035, but he wanted to be more progressive about that and do 2030. So we'll see what happens. But they are working at doing electric vehicles and having stations where you plug them in, and you can buy some kind of unit that you would plug your car into at your own home. So this is something that's been happening on a large level. So it'll be interesting to see.
And we can go, I know I keep saying, well, we'll talk about this, and then something jumps in. I'm remembering in all of this, because we haven't even reached the Scorpio New Moon, how does it all relate back home to us? Because I'm thinking, and maybe that's between the school business and the mental, like where we're trying to go and trying to remember the shift within us. Oh, I know what I was thinking. With all this technological changes, that's what got in my brain. I realized it's challenging. You know, technology keeps changing and changing and changing. And I think even if you're in your 20s, I'll have to check with people if one's really updated into this. But even so, if you get a new computer, there's still some kind of new opportunity that you can learn, but you have to adjust to how that whole talk chat or whatever it is operating, and whether it uses a hashtag or whether it uses a symbol or whatever. But there's adjustments that we're all really making that are external. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's where the communication comes in, just to tie this in. I'll let you guys take it from there.
Things are changing rapidly. So, and even though we had COVID and had lockdowns, and we still have somewhat of a lockdowns, but in that 1 year, we could really observe how fast things changed. I don't think we've been as observant of how fast things are changing. Technology, medicine, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, think about how fast the vaccines came out once they did get started. Yeah. So I did want to bring up the Sabian symbol for for the new moon. Yeah. So it's 22 degrees Taurus, and it's a white dove flying straight and fearlessly over troubled water. So and I think all of us get a chance. I know it's exciting it can be a peace mission that must be fulfilled. So the dove symbolizes the messenger of peace and hope and redemption. And flying straight and fearless is a message for us to stay on course. So getting clear on what it is that we want to go after. And then over troubled waters is just a reminder to keep going regardless of what happens around us. So it's nice. It's an exciting new moon.
I like this. And in that whole idea, the dove does find land. We do get grounded. As much as I love being out there, I must say I'm reminded, like a tree, if we don't have roots down to the ground, we're frailing, which okay, here I am again, but I know the clock is somewhere ticking and I have to get out. That next week, we're going to try something brand new. We're going to do something very similar to what has been called astral drama, but instead we're going to call it something different. We're going to call it cinema astral planets, I think, or no, astral journey. The name is a little bit happening, but it's a journey, and we're going to have several astrologers that are usually on the program take some people's charts and interpret them as though we were the planets. And we'll see how this goes. It's called astrodrama, but because we're not all on the same stage, it's a little different because the visceral feeling is different, but we can still communicate these planets. And that's how the ancients did. They didn't say that they represented, they felt that planets were these energies. So we're going to, like a character scene, whichever we'll tell you what the question of the chart is and the person, and then later the person will come on. And we have a couple that we've already chosen. And we'll just see how this works. But that'll be on May 2nd. And just to remind you that this is the Moonbeam Team. And we have, every month we come up and we talk about what's happening. And next month is going to be the eclipse. Now, this month, we have on the team, of course, is Liz Machette from Washington and Catherine Metcalf of Illinois. And unfortunately, we're going to miss Catherine next month, which is very sad indeed. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. But anyway, and tonight we're missing Sarah Stromley, who's, for reasons. So we kind of juggle and fill in. Anyway, but we are going ahead with this new moon. I don't know how many minutes, but that's what I wanted to say. And I really want to thank you very much and remind people to subscribe to the Talk Cosmos channel and check out our little quick chats. So flying high. Okay, I did my flying. And do you have other thoughts about that, Catherine and Liz?
Well, it's the new moon. So on May 11th or thereabouts, work on your wishes and desires for the month. And it can be even for up to 3 years, remember.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Or it can be just even for a year. So with the different moon cycles, we can use that energy. I call it catch the wind in your sail when you can.
Woo! Hey, we're sailing. We're
Nice.
flying now. In fact, yeah, it's so true. And with this too, I think the whole fact that we're moving forward from December with the great conjunction in air, of Jupiter and Saturn that conjunct every 20 years. But then there's this bigger cycle that we're now entering 200 years of the air connective sharing, communicating energies instead of the see it, believe it. It's more like see it within and believe it, maybe. Is that it?
It's time for the airheads to rise. Yay!
I like to call it the geniuses to come out. Let everybody's inner genius come out and shine.
That's beautiful. Much nicer.
Well, everybody has something to share with somebody else that they don't know.
That's true.
And to take that opportunity to realize, to connect, to discover something, or just to appreciate and to be. Yeah, it's very true. And to hear oneself. I think with Taurus, that reminds me, it is the senses and listening, really listening to oneself, listening to our body, is body too. We want to, how does it feel? It's like, they should have classes about that. Okay, we're in class. How does your body feel?
And since we're at such an emotional full moon period, it's like be gentle with yourself. If you can take a salt bath, that'd be great. Or soak your feet in some salt water. Take a walk in nature. Any of those things.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Salt, N-A. Salt is N, nitrogen, and Na. Anyways, Na. I want to keep saying NAACP, and that's not it. I forgot my chemistry, but I know salt. But it is very extracting the impurities. It's most amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be important for us too, the day of the new moon. So on May 11th, because it is in Taurus, it would be a good time to get outside as well. Put your toes in the dirt, get grounded, do a little visualization of getting rooted into the earth. So I think that'll just help manifest whatever your wishes are.
Yeah, it's always a good time to reboot with everybody what Taurus means, and its resources, talents, music. It can be pre-verbal, so we can listen to the wind, to the birds' wings flying. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you and our audience. We do love you and would love to hear from you. So write in or Let us know what you think. And thank you, Liz Mouchette, and thank you, Catherine Metcalf. And we hope Sarah
Thank
feels
you.
better. Okay,
Yeah.
here comes the music.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Rose Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.